Distancing Toastmasters. I am your Zoom facilitator for this evening. And I would like to go over a few things with you. The first thing is to remain on mute while you are not speaking. If you're doing one of the duties as posture monitor or counter, you are welcome to stay unmuted, provided that you don't have any other background noise that's going on that might interfere. If you find that that happens, just mute yourself at that point. Use your good judgment. For our speakers throughout the evening, our timer for the evening is that you, Mark? Is that you? I don't have that up yet.
I'm timer.
I'm sorry.
There you go.
Okay, so everybody just make sure you either pin Dagan when you need to, or make sure that he is on your screen so you can view him for time while you're speaking. At this point, I'm going to go ahead and show the agenda for the evening. I'm going to share that with you. And so if you go to our Toastmasters website, our Dallas Social Toastmasters website, it's dallassocialtoastmasters.com. You'll find over on the right-hand side of the homepage there is a list or a section that says member section. In that area, you'll find something that says club agenda. If you click on that, it'll open up the agenda for you. And you'll be able to see the agenda for this evening, and you can either download it, just keep it up in your background. If you have the ability to print it out, you need to print it out. Just try to do so expediently. But there it is for you, and I will go ahead and stop sharing. At this point, I don't think that we have any guests this evening. I didn't see any. So I will go ahead and I will introduce our Toastmaster for the evening. Please help me to welcome Mr. John Vessels. Mr. Toastmaster.
Good evening, everybody, and fellow Toastmasters. It is a dark and stormy night, and Halloween is just around the corner. So what are we going to do? It's time for a scary movie. Yep. If you got nothing else to do, when they're all locked up, go to Netflix, go to Prime, go to any broadcast TV right now. You got Halloween and scary movies going all the time. And they're wonderful. I love a good scary movie. It's hard at my age to find a movie that really scares me anymore because I'm so used to them, but they're still out there. Every once in a while I find something that really gets you on edge. And that's what we're going to talk some about tonight. But first, I want to introduce my duty holders for the evening. And we're going to start with our first duty holder, and that's going to be Dagan Newland, and he is my timer. So please, Dagan, explain the timer's duties.
I will do. As timer tonight, I will also be in charge of timing the different sections of the meeting. That's going to be the prepared speeches, the evaluation, and table topics. So our prepared speaker tonight is 4 to 6 minutes, if I'm correct. And 4 minutes, you'll get the green. At 5 minutes, you get the yellow, and 6 minutes, you'll get the red, and have 30 seconds leeway on either side. So within those time frames, 30 seconds leeway either side will qualify. And for table topics, you'll get the green at 1, 1.5 yellow, and at 2 minutes, you get the red. Then you have 30 seconds to wrap up. But again, you must hit 1 minute. So you get 1 minute and 1 minute to 2 minutes and 30 seconds to qualify. And evaluations, you get the green at 2, 2.5, you get yellow, and 3, you get red, and you have 30 seconds leeway on either side to fall within to qualify for. Remember, of course, we only have one speaker, one evaluator, so that's automatic. But remember, again, table topics is must 1 minute to 2.5 minutes. Back to you, Toastmaster.
Thank you, Dagan. Our couple of changes here. Our next duty holder is the awe counter, and that's going to be Kim Crandall. So Kim, will you explain the duties of the awe counter, please?
Can you hear me?
Yes,
Yes.
ma'am.
Okay. As awe counter, I will be listening for any crutch words, pregnant pauses, anything that's distracting from the speech that should not be part of the speech, that does not enhance your speech, and I will keep note and give a report during the evaluation portion of the meeting.
Thank you, Kim. Our next change tonight is going to be posture monitor, and that's going to be Mark Schroeder this evening. Mark, can you tell me about posture monitor?
Certainly. So my job is going to be to watch for anything that I can tell with regard to posture. Since we're on Zoom, in many cases, that means you're going to have to raise your hands a little higher in order to see them. But my job is to look for anything that detracts from the message that you're trying to convey, or anything that reinforces the message that you're trying to convey. And I'm going to make a report at the end of the meeting on what I notice. Mr. Tabletop, Mr. Toastmaster.
All right. Thank you, Mark. Our next duty holder for the evening is going to be Devin Goldsmith, and she is the vote counter. So will you please explain the job of the vote counter?
So thank you, John. The vote counter has a dual role in the meeting to collect and to count the votes for the contested events, and to collect and distribute notes for the speakers or any other participant in the meeting to whom someone wants to give feedback.
Thank you. So everybody tonight, Devin's vote counter. So when you're asked to vote, please send a private chat to Devin so she can get those votes counted and tabulate that for us so she can present ribbons at the end of the meeting. Now, our last duty holder for tonight is going to be Rob Giles, and he is the grammarian. So Rob, take it away.
Thank you very much, Mr. Toastmaster. As grammarian, I have a couple of duties. One is to introduce the word of the day, and I will do that with you here. I'm going to actually share the screen with you. The word of the day is craven. If I can get to it. Perhaps I can't. Okay, so we're going to stop sharing that, and we're going to show it right here. So the word of the day is craven, and hopefully you can read that. It's an adjective, and it has a definition of lacking the least bit of courage, contemptibly faint-hearted. Let me go ahead and I'm going to show that again in a little bit more legible font. Hopefully you guys can see that. And craven. When I first started Toastmasters, I definitely was craven, especially when it came to table topics. But I've grown from that. I'm not very craven anymore in regard to that, although I'm still craven as far as some scary movies. I'm also going to be taking notes throughout the meeting regarding any egregious use of the English language or any excellent use of the English language. I may be noting some phrases that I find interesting as well. And then I will give a report regarding those things at the end of the meeting. Please note that you must use the word of the day, craven, during table topics in order to qualify to win the ribbon at the end of the night. Back to you, Mr. Toastmaster.
Thank you, Rob. Well, nobody can be craven tonight, so we're going to talk about some scary movies. Okay, who out there likes scary movies? Raise your right hand. Marsha doesn't like scary movies. Lee doesn't like scary movies. Okay, well, I've got some options for you too. So scary movies come in all different genres. We have hauntings. We have ones about ghosts and witches or monsters. And then there are also just some lighthearted Halloweeny adventures that are just fun. So much to choose from. I'm going to tell you about some of my favorites. And let's go with the spooky movie. I can tell what Schroeder likes. Spooky movies, they're just scary, but not overdrawn and dramatic and don't have a lot of ghosts and are clean and great. And some of my favorite that I've already watched once this week is The Haunting from 1963. It's in black and white. Just be prepared for those people that don't like black and white movies. You're missing a lot if you don't watch black and white movies. The Haunting has no ghost in it, but it has a lot of scary things that happen. And if you've never seen it before, it'll make you jump. One of my next favorite movies is The Legend of Hell House. And if you've never seen it, it sounds awfuler than it is. But it's also really similar to The Haunting. It's about a group of people that go into a haunted environment or house, castle, and they're trying to discover and get rid of the haunting. And this was done in 1973. It's in color. It has Roddy McDowall in a very big cast, but it's a very good movie, very creepy, very spooky, and I think it's great. The Shining. Who hasn't seen The Shining? Besides Marsha, you probably won't watch it. But she may have, and that may be why she doesn't like scary movies. A big classic. Everybody likes it. It's always on one of the top 10 lists of the scariest movies. And I watched it, I think, Saturday night. The one that goes kind of away from these are not quite as scary, but they are. The Exorcist. That's a very interesting movie, and it gets pretty graphic at times, but it's a really good storyline. And way back in like 1972, I think it was, when it came out, it was all the rage. And of course, they filled people's minds with people had heart attacks and that it scared them so bad. It's like, well, okay. But it didn't give me a heart attack, but it was fun and it was enjoyable and it was scary at times, especially if you've never seen it before. And the last spooky one is Rosemary's Baby. Has anybody seen Rosemary's Baby? It's a very old movie, from 68. Yeah, that is a good, suspenseful, creepy movie that you would definitely enjoy. So now we're going to go on to our speaker for this evening, and that is going to be Marsha Collins. And tonight, her evaluator is Lee King. So, Lee, will you present the goals for Marsha, please?
Yes, Marsha will be doing an icebreaker speech. This is not her first icebreaker speech, but this is the first time she's speaking in our club, so she will be giving her icebreaker this evening. Her objective is just simply to get comfortable speaking and to prepare a 4 to 6 minute speech about herself. Back to you, John.
All right, thank you, Lee. So, Marsha Collins. Hello, my name is Marsha. So, hello, my name is Marsha Collins.
Thank you, fellow Toastmaster. Can everyone see my screen?
Yes.
Okay. So as our fellow Toastmaster has indicated, this is my icebreaker speech. It will be 4 to 6 minutes, presented by myself, Marsha Collins Lewis.
all day long at school is how great Marsha is at this or how wonderful Marsha did that. Marsha, Marsha, Marsha.
Now, sweetheart.
Thank you. As I said, good evening and thank you, Mr. Toastmaster and fellow Toastmasters. Picture this: Los Angeles, California, January 12th, 1973. A beautiful 8-pound baby girl was born to Eula and Jacob Collins. Now, my mom was determined not to be in any type of pain or discomfort on her 31st birthday, so she pleaded with the doctors to induce labor. But truth be told, I was taking a little bit longer than, expected to make my arrival into the world, and labor was induced, and hence I was born on January 12th, 1973, a day before my mom's birthday, January 13th. So whenever I'm late to functions or events, I always try to use that as an excuse. Well, hey, I was late coming into the world and they had to induce labor. So hello, my name is Marsha. It is not Marcia. It is not Marsha. It is Marcy to my family and friends, and it's Collins to my coworkers. I am a diehard Angelino. I love all things purple, and I tell you, I am the best, the coolest auntie in the world. I really am. I'm the youngest of 4 siblings, 2 girls, 2 boys. No, wait, hold on. Before you even remotely think it, I am not spoiled. I am well taken care of. Seriously, I am. Now, for whatever reason, my siblings would like to make claims that I'm what's that word? Bossy. Bossy? What are you talking about, bossy? I'm not bossy, folks. Seriously, I'm really not. I'm not bossy. I have leadership skills. People, it's leadership skills. I'm not bossy. Now, how can I say such a thing? I can because of Jeremiah 29:11. It says, "For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord. Plans to prosper you, not to harm you. Plans to give you hope and a future." This is my favorite verse in the Bible. Why? Because it lets me know that I have a purpose in this world. I exist for a reason. The desires of my heart can be fulfilled. But what is it that I desire? I desire many things, but one is to have an impact on those to whom I come into contact with. I seek to motivate and inspire. And as a teacher, leader, and trainer, I want to be able to inspire and motivate special education teachers, and I want to build their self-efficacy and staying committed to the profession and knowing that they have the necessary skill sets to impact the achievement with students with disabilities. But most importantly, in knowing that with their help and dedication, all students can achieve. Achievement. What is it that I want to achieve? The reason why I joined Toastmasters is because I wanted to develop my speaking abilities. I wanted to eradicate the use of ums. I want to work on slowing down my thoughts as I speak. I want to be able to incorporate pauses appropriately instead of as an interruption or distraction, but more to have an impact. But most importantly, the reason why I joined Toastmasters, I just want to have fun. I want to step out. I want to welcome those plans that God has in store for me. Really funny story. I had came across an email, a district email about Toastmasters. Clicked on it, read it, was really interested. And next thing you know, I'm like looking for it and on the website, couldn't find it. But lo and behold, right after spring break, this whole onset of COVID-19 and self-quarantine and self-shutdown and shut up, it came across again in district email. And I was like, yes, this is it. This is a sign. I have something to do. And so I clicked on it and I'm reading the thread and I'm like, yeah, this is it. It takes me to the national website. I click on it. It says Dallas Social Toastmasters. I'm like, yeah, this is it. I join, get a conversation, talk to Mark, pay my money. I join, come to a meeting. And I'm looking at the screen and I'm saying, wait a minute. None of these people are Dallas people. And nobody sure isn't talking about Dallas ISD. I did some more in-depth research and I realized this is not the Dallas ISD Toastmasters. It's a whole totally different group. But I tell you what, I'm glad that I clicked on you all because truly, this is a plan that God had in store for me. I'm really glad that I've joined this group. I really am. And so, hello. My name is Marsha. Thank you. Back to you, fellow Toastmasters.
Thank you, Marsha. Really appreciate that. We're glad you joined the club too, and you misguided yourself, but you got to us. All good for one reason, and it's important. So now, do we call on Dagan? Did Marsha qualify in time?
Can I verify the time frame? Was it 4 to 6 minutes or 5 to 7?
I think her
Yes,
slide
what?
said 4 to 6.
Okay, but make sure if 4 to 6, she did not qualify.
Okay. All right, well, that's fine. So please, if you have comments, please direct comments so that we can get to the vote counter so that we can get those comments to Marsha. All right. You like monsters in your movies? Some of the best monster movies, in my opinion. The originals, Frankenstein from 1931, back in those black and white days. Those were good and scary. And Dracula from 1931 too, with Bela Lugosi, the original Dracula. That's the best. The Wolfman came along in 1941. All three of these movies were great movies. All still in black and white though for y'all chroma fans. One more from 1968, but still in black and white, Night of the Living Dead. Yes, Mark Schroeder loves that. That first, I'm sorry, Night of the Living Dead was the best zombie movie that came to attack those people, and I thought it was great. Nicholas is throwing up his arms. You don't like it? Or you hadn't seen that one?
No, I'm just like, I'm like a 28 days later kind of guy.
Oh, okay. Did you see 28 Days? Suck. It's been on twice. Huh?
I haven't seen it yet since Halloween or since October.
Oh, okay.
Fast yeah. Zombies suck.
Oh.
And then one last, and it's not all of them by any means, and people have different tastes, but I love the classics and I love the first time originals. But Alien from 1979, you have to admit that was a scary movie. That I went to the theater to see that, and yeah, that was intense. It was a good movie though. Now, if you're really into gore, then, I mean, you can always hit any one of the Friday the 13th or Halloween or Nightmare on Elm Street if you like everybody getting slashed up and cut up. You can pick any one of them, but to me, the best were always the first ones, the very original ones. After that, it's just kind of all a remake. Now, if you want something really over the top and unnerving, Texas Chainsaw Massacre. I actually did watch that the very first time out in the country on a dark and stormy night by myself. And yeah, that one kind of got me on edge. That was walking around the house, turn the lights on. It's like, yeah, I'm alone. And then House of a Thousand Corpses. I don't like that movie. It's gross and unnerving, and I don't like it, so I don't watch those anymore. But they are out there. And then for my final wrap up on scary movies, these may be for Marsha. Hocus Pocus. Fun comedy about three witches, chasing the kids. It's all right. And it's good. Rocky Horror Picture Show. The Witches of Eastwick. These were all easy. Beetlejuice. Practical Magic. Those are all fun movies. Those are not, to me, they weren't scary at all. They're more lighthearted and more enjoyable and doesn't take you to an ugly place. So that's my review of scary movies. Be sure and watch at least one of those between now and Halloween, because they'll be on someplace. All right. Thank you. And now we're going to move on to our next portion of the meeting, which is going to be table topics. And tonight our table topics host is Mark Sims. So, Mr. Sims, take it away.
Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster. Since we had one speech tonight, we will slightly expand the number of table topics participants. And the questions will be in line with the theme tonight of scary movies. And everyone who's called upon for table topics, please remember to speak a minimum of 1 minute, no more than 2.5, and that includes the 30 seconds grace. And please use the word of the day that Rob is holding up, craven. You don't want to be craven, but you need to use the word since it's part of the competition. And I see that since we've started, we've picked up a guest, Karen Smith. So Karen, welcome. And what we will do is, thank you. And what we will do is near the end of the table topics competition, I'll check back with you, see if you want to participate. You absolutely do not have to, but after you've seen a few examples, you might want to give it an attempt. When I think of scary movies, one that comes to mind for me is Carrie from 1976. And I was stoked when I saw it because I was 17 and was able to go see R-rated movies by myself. That was a big deal. But near the end of that movie, a young woman is having a dream about putting flowers at Carrie's grave, and a hand comes up out of the grave and grabs her. And I tell you, that had people screaming out loud in the theater, not just jumping, but yelling, and probably me among them. That was one of the scariest scenes I've ever seen in a movie. So the first question I will start off with one of our newer members, Dev Goldsmith. And Dev, can you tell us what you think is the scariest movie ever?
Oh, definitely for me. I would have to say that my scariest movie, the movie that is so craven for me, it would definitely have to be something like probably, maybe, I don't know, any scary movie. I'm not really answering your question, but I'm letting you know that I don't really watch scary movies. But if I had to pick one, there was this movie that came out back in the late 70s. It was about a guy that got possessed by a car. The name of the movie was called Christine. And after I saw that movie, it made me not want to drive red cars because I felt like you would become possessed by it. And then I realized when I got older that I actually did like red cars because my car is red. Yep. That's all I got to say about that. I'll turn it back over to you.
Mark, unmute.
Yep, you're on mute, please.
I'm sorry, I had went on mute, and I definitely don't watch a lot of scary movies myself these days. That was more for my younger years, but I do remember watching Christine at the theater. This next question I'm motivated to ask because a few years ago, I went to see a movie called The Purge. It was one of the movies in that series. It was not as much scary, but violent. But on the previews, and The Purge was an R-rated movie, so the previews were pretty rough. And one of them was a movie, as a preview about a movie where a young girl in a Ouija board game gets possessed. And the graphics were so realistic that I was averting my glance. I, at some points, closing my eyes because I literally did not want that visual. I would like to ask Nicholas, have you ever seen anything in a scary movie that you thought was just too over the top?
Yeah, great question, Mark. So I'd have to say the scariest movie that I've watched in recent memory has got to be Hereditary, which is it was a critically acclaimed horror movie about a family, a mother and her two children, and the father, and her mom was possessed, but you don't really know why. But you find out that eventually there's a cult that follows them, and there's just, they get possessed more and more as the movie goes on. And it's not as much just scary, it's incredibly like sickening and just disturbing what happens to the family. There's one part that it's honestly one of the most screwed up things I've ever seen. It was the kid, the boy got back from a party or something, and the girl, he's with his sister, who's very strange, and she eats bird heads for some reason, I don't know, but she sticks her head out of the window and then dies because they run into a telephone pole or something. And I vividly remember that's one of the most gruesome, disturbing things I've ever seen in a movie, and I can't believe that was in that. But again, very critically acclaimed movie, but left me with a lot of just very disturbing and lurid thoughts. So back to you. And it made me very craven. So
Okay, thank you. That does sound pretty rough. Now, some people maybe take the movies more seriously than others. When I was younger, I could let the scary movies bounce off of me. Not as much now, but I would like to ask Rob Giles if a scary movie has ever caused him to have a nightmare.
Thank you very much, Mr. Topic Master. I don't recall ever being afraid after watching a scary movie. Doesn't mean that it didn't happen. It likely did. And perhaps as a young kid, I felt that I would look like I was craven if I announced it in any way. However, I did have many scary nightmares as a child, and perhaps it's a cumulative effect. The one that sticks with me to this day, and I think that I first had it when I was about 4 years old, maybe 5, and that was me being, and this is when I lived up in Buffalo, all the houses have basements, and I was in the basement, and I was trying to get up the stairs for safety. Something was chasing me, or it was super dark. It was definitely super dark in the nightmare, and the stairs were covered with snakes and other rodents and things like that. And as I was trying to get up and be careful about that, as sometimes you have in nightmares, things change and I'm trying to go up and I feel like my feet are stuck in mud or quicksand and I couldn't get up, and I'm yelling out, trying to scream for help to my mom or my dad. And of course, nothing's coming out. Nothing's coming out until finally I wake up. And that's when the end of mom comes out. So, so it's the strangest thing when you wake up like that. But I don't know that it was caused by a specific movie, but perhaps the culmination of maybe a few. So there you have it. Back to you, Mr. Topic Master.
Thank you. And my mother used to tell me that when I was really young, I would have nightmares after watching The Munsters, which is a comedy show, but I was so young that I guess I could not distinguish. So those things happen. I recall one time, and I literally must have sneaked away from work or left work early to see this movie, catch a matinee at the Cinemark that used to be at the Six Flags Mall in Arlington before that mall went away. And it was a prequel to Texas Chainsaw Massacre. And it was just weird enough and gruesome enough in some places. And there was just a few people in the theater that at some point, for the first time in my life, I ever asked myself if I was safe in that theater with those other moviegoers. Now, they may have thought the same thing about me. Hey, I wonder about that dude. But I would like to ask Mark Schroeder if he has ever worried about the other people in the theater with him.
Have I ever wondered about or worried about the other people in the theater with me? I honestly can't say that I have. I watch most of the horror movies probably at home, and there's a reason for that. If I watch them at home, I can adjust the volume. The one thing that I've learned is that if I have the volume, if the volume is loud, that's what causes me to jump more than anything else. There are very few things visually will do it, although I've had a few movies that'll do it. Now, there are some people that really like Wes Craven's movies. Sorry, had to do that one. Such as all the Scream series and all of the takeoffs on the Scream series that have been jokes after that. But I was just thinking about it with regard to movies that really did get me recently. There's a relatively new one, I think it's relatively new, out called The Autopsy of Jane Doe, which I wasn't even sure what it was. I didn't even necessarily think it was a horror movie. But it turns out it is someone that she shows up dead in the morgue, and as they're doing an autopsy, they start taking all of the layers of skin apart, and completely under the skin, the entire body is tattooed. And you're wondering, how in the world did this happen even? And that movie, that's probably the one that has managed to creep me out the most recently. But with regard to worried about people in movie theaters, no, they're all there to have a good time. If anything, it'll be their loud screams just because of the noise that makes me jump, because the noises and the sounds make me jump more than the visuals. But it's been a long time, honestly, since I've seen a movie in a theater in terms of a horror film, because I try to avoid that and try to watch those at home on my smaller screen with volume control. Back to you, Mark.
Thank you. And for this next question, we sometimes think about actors or actresses having a pretty great life. They're famous, they're adored, they make a lot of money. But sometimes they have to do some unusual things in a movie theater or in a movie. Maybe you have to cross some type of internal line. And I would like to ask Dagan Newland, if he was an actor in a really scary movie, would he perform a slashing scene?
All right, somebody gonna time me?
Allow me one moment.
Oh, okay.
I just have to get to my timer.
Okay. I don't have my phone with me.
calculator is not going to get it. Okay, ready.
All right. So if I was in a movie, would I perform a slasher scene? But first, I actually want to talk about when I was a little kid. You know, my parents took me to like a haunted house and stuff. You know, as a little kid, I was always craving, and I would like hide behind my parents and like, you know, have my hands on the back of the shirt and like duck around like this. You know, I with my eyes closed, you know, through the whole way through the haunted house, because just as a kid, I just kind of scared. And but as I grew up and actually started, you know, watching some, you know, horror films, I realized it's really not all that bad. And you know, of course, I realized it's, you know, really all fake and stuff like that. So it just really never really bothered me watching horror movies, although I do not really prefer to watch the kind of gory movies. So therefore, I would probably not want to do a slasher scene if I was in a movie. But I think one of my favorite horror movies, wasn't really a horror, but it was called The 13 Ghosts. And that was a really, really cool movie, I thought. Just the overall storyline about the 13 ghosts that they captured and all that. That was really a great movie. So back to you, Toastmaster.
Thank you. For this next question, I have seen a few movies, scary movies in my life, where there's an attempt to use some comedy in the movie. Like, for example, and I think this is late 70s in The Town That Dreaded Sundown. It was about, I think, kind of a real life situation in Texarkana of a killer that was never caught. But in the movie that I saw, there was actually one scene where a police officer's car, I think, was chasing someone and ended up driving into a lake, and they showed that in slow motion. It was slightly humorous. It had nothing to do with scaring anyone. And I'd like to ask Kim Crandall what she thinks about the mixture of comedy into scary movies. Kim, you're on mute.
Thank you for that question. I guess I could describe myself as craven. I'm not really into scary movies. A few movies that John mentioned, I guess the one that would come to mind as comedy or humor in it would be Hocus Pocus. As far as movies overall, as I said, I don't really see many, but definitely Mark Schroeder's movie, Night of the Living Dead. I've seen that. And that was fun. That was a movie that was just basically scary and it makes you jump. I have a friend, my best friend in high school, when Psycho was out, her parents were gone and she wanted to take a shower. So she had me come over the shower scene. She did not feel comfortable taking a shower. So I had to wait for her while she took her shower. So I guess I like movies where it's scary, but it makes you jump. I guess that's the best way to describe the type of movies that I've seen. Overall, I don't know if you would describe me as craven, but I hope that answers your question, Mr. Table Topics Master.
Thank you, Kim. And I think I agree. It's somewhat of a interesting or somewhat of an awkward fit of humor into a really scary movie. And for the final question, I will offer it up and Karen, see if you want to answer this. And the question is actually one of the easier ones. Please tell us your scariest movie ever.
Okay. This is Karen Smith. I'm just new to the class. I'm listening in. And my scariest movie, I feel like I will say that I have not seen a lot of scary movies later in life, but one of the scariest ones I saw younger on when I didn't feel like I was, or when I was more apt to see scary movies would have been Carrie. I think it's like a mid 70s film with Sissy Spacek. And well, she is I think she's in high school. She's in high school and she goes to the prom and they have the pig blood to come all over her, to pour down on top of her. If you all remember that film, that was one of the scariest. I think she was turning around in her bathroom in the mirror and waiting for like an exorcist or something to come out. But I can remember very vaguely, but that is one of the scariest movies. And I think shortly thereafter, I stopped doing scary films. So that would be one of the scarier ones that I have seen. Thank you. Oh, back to you, Toastmasters.
Thank you. Thank you, Karen, and thank you for visiting tonight. And one brief explanation before I wrap this up, Karen. During the evening when you've seen us maybe waving hands, that's the best thing we can do for applause in an environment where you're on a Zoom screen and you're generally muted if you're not talking. So that's the purpose behind that. At this point, we want to go to we want to, first of all, get a timer's report on the table topics participants. So Dagan, did everyone qualify?
Yes, everybody qualified on time.
Okay. And I think I know the answer to this, but Rob Giles, did everyone use the word of the day?
Everyone used it except for Karen, unless I misheard. Mark took liberty to go ahead and use it in the form of a actual proper name, which as grammarian, I guess I get the ruling on that, so I'm going to accept that for the creativity. And there you go. So everybody except for Karen, unless I did that wrong. And Karen, you can speak up if that is the case. Otherwise, back to you, Mr. Table Topic Master.
No, you did not. You did not. No, you did not listen wrong. I did not use it. I was trying to use it younger on, but it would be more so, I'm more creative now than I was when I was a child. But I couldn't figure out how to put it in there. So, yeah.
Thank you, Karen. At this point, everyone, please vote, and I'll briefly recap. So to remind you of who you want to vote for, the people that spoke within the allotted times and used the word of the day. Deb talked about the scariest movie ever. Nicholas answered the question, how much is too much over the top graphics in a scary movie? Rob answered the question if he ever had nightmares. Mark Schroeder answered the question if he ever worried about the people in the theater. Dagan answered the question, would he perform a slashing scene in a movie? Kim addressed the combination of comedy and scary in a movie. And Karen again wrapped it up with talking about her scariest movie ever, which again, I also saw when I was young, although I guess she didn't use the word of the day. So the first 6 contestants, please send your vote, your choice, to our vote counter, who again is our vote counter?
Dev.
Deb, sorry, Deb.
Devon.
Everyone, please send a private chat to Deb with your vote, and she will make a report later on in the meeting. And with that, I will first check and see if our Toastmaster has any wrap-up comments.
Yeah, I do have one little kind of comment here. To me, a good scary movie is one that surprises you, makes you jump out of your seat. And I do remember one time, I know all of y'all have seen The Sixth Sense or heard of The Sixth Sense with Bruce Willis and Haley Joel Osment. I had seen that movie once in the theaters, And then I went with a friend because he wanted to go see it. So I went with him, and the theater was packed. And at the very end, when the ring falls down on the floor and rolls across the room, then everybody in the theater realizes that this whole time Bruce Willis has been dead and talking to the kid that sees dead people. Everybody in the place gasped. And I just thought that was so great. It's like all the air pressure just changed because everybody in the place goes, and that was cool. Thank you, Mark. Back to you.
And at this point, we can go to the evaluation portion of the meeting. And our general evaluator tonight is Nicholas.
Great. Thank you, Mark, and fellow Toastmasters, and obviously welcome, Karen. Now we're in the evaluation portion of our meeting. First, we're going to hear the speech evaluator give the evaluation of the prepared speech given by Marsha tonight. Then after that, I will give my general evaluation of the overall meeting. So again, to confirm on time, Lee, you will have 2 to 3 minutes to speak. And then for the red card, 3 minutes. And if you go over 3 minutes and 30 seconds, you will not qualify on time. So obviously, without further ado, our first evaluator is Lee King, evaluating Marsha's speech. Hello, my name is Marsha. Please help me welcome Lee King.
Good evening, fellow Toastmasters and guest, most especially Marsha. Gives me a great opportunity to evaluate your speech for this evening. Tonight, I'm going to use the 3-2-1 method. I'll mention 3 things that you did well, give you a couple of areas in which you might want to consider improving, and then finally, one thing that I thought you did really well in your speech. To start with, I feel like you used good hand gestures fairly consistently throughout the meeting. I know that your speaking space was a little bit limited, but you did make good use of your speaking space. You also used good vocal variety, and you really shared a little bit about yourself. And I really thought that you made good use of props as well throughout your speech. So we really got to know you through your speech, which was your main objective. A couple of things that I would suggest that you might want to consider in the future. One, I felt that your introduction was a little rough in that you had asked if we could see your screen, and then you recapped your speech and your time and all of that, which was already introduced to you. And I think that could have been the thing that may have made you go over time. The other thing that I noticed is that you were sitting when you showed the movie clip, and then you started standing up. I would suggest figuring out a way in which you could already be standing at the point that you're showing the video clip, so that we don't see you standing up. You're already in that position. You're already on stage. But the one thing that I thought you did very well was integrating your speech with the movie clip that you showed. I feel like a lot of times we have people that try to integrate movies, but then they fall a little bit flat. However, we could definitely tell that throughout your speech, you did a very good job of integrating the movie with your speech. So in summary, great vocal variety, overall good use of stage, good job meeting your objective. Consider working on better placement of your stage and your props, as well as your introduction, but overall very good with keeping the theme consistent, your movie theme consistent throughout your speech. Back to you, Mr. General Evaluator.
Thank you very much, Lee. That was great. I also do have a hard stop tonight at 8, so just a forewarning, but I'll now go into my evaluation of the meeting as a whole, which I thought was great, especially because I really loved the theme, the topic and the theme tonight. I'm usually more of a Christmas guy, but I've started to get really starting to get really into scary stuff. So, and Halloween in general. Things that the meeting could have improved on. We did start a couple minutes late. So obviously that's just because it's on Zoom, we have technical issues, but in all the duty holders, each duty holder presented their duties very well. There was a great word of the day, craven. It's not one I use a lot, but maybe I'll start to use it a little bit more. And great discussions overall about the different types of scary movies, the old 60s movies, the 30s movies, and then more of the modern ones. On to Marsha's speech, I like that you did the screen sharing of the speech, and you had really great body and hand gestures as well, especially the hand gestures. I thought the name pronunciations were really funny when you did that. I thought the shirt reveal with the shirt that you had on was hilarious. I had quite a laugh seeing that. And then I also did think you had a very good transition from helping, sexual education teachers to talking about overall achievement. And then we all love that you joined Toastmasters. So we love that you're here as well. So for the table topics, Mark Sims, I thought, did a great transition into this section and great questions, and a lot of them too, that were just very easy to answer. And it just really flowed well with the meeting. I thought Dev had a really great table topic about Christine, and red's actually my favorite color. So I was a little bit biased. And then Rob, yikes. Yeah, snakes and rats is a bad combination. I don't like really having those kind of dreams. And Mark Schroeder, I actually always turn the volume way down when a scary scene is coming up. I always do it, even on my iPad, iPhone, TV, whatever. It's just going down to like 1 or 2%, so I can hear a little bit what's going on, but it doesn't jump out and scare me. Dagan, 13 Ghosts is a really good movie. So that's 2001, I believe. I remember seeing that. Kim, Hocus Pocus. My sister was just talking about Hocus Pocus, actually, and I can't believe I haven't seen it, but I'll watch that eventually. And I also do really like the scary movies that make you jump as well. And then for our guest tonight, Karen Smith, Carrie is really one of the scariest movies ever. It's just really disturbing. I watched the more recent one as well with, I can't remember the actress's name, but that was really a messed up movie. And then lastly, Lee, for your speech evaluation, I thought that was a great transition to the evaluation. It was just quick and very timely. And then you also did give very good constructive feedback as well. And I thought that was a great portion. With screen sharing, that can bite into your time a little bit. So I thought that was a good point. So in any case, now I'm going to return the meeting control to our Toastmaster tonight. Back to you.
Well, okay, you need to do the duty holders.
Oh, right. Okay. I always forget that because it's not on the script for some reason. So I'm sorry, I'm confused. So for all the duty holders, all right. So Dagan, everyone qualified on time, right? Except a couple of people for the speech, and then one of the table topic speakers. And then we'll go to Kim Crandall, who is our posture monitor this evening. So Kim, give us your posture evaluation.
She was all counter.
Oh, you were all counter. Okay. So Mark Schroeder, you were our posture tonight?
That is correct.
Okay. Mark, give us your posture evaluation.
All right, happy to do that. Let me start off with our speaker tonight. Marsha, for what it's worth, this was an icebreaker for you, and this was quite an impressive icebreaker. You did a lot of things very, very right for an icebreaker speech. I like the way that you were standing, and that gave us the ability to clearly see your hands and arms. We were basically about waist level, so we could see a lot of the gestures that you were doing. Your gestures were very well timed with the speech and the points that you were making. And that's always something that is potentially difficult. Depends upon how comfortable you are doing that sort of thing already, and whether or not you're trying to choreograph them to go with it. Thought you did an excellent job there. Love the t-shirt. Absolutely love the t-shirt. That was a wonderful addition. You may not have realized it, or maybe you did. It depends upon whether or not you could see yourself in the video, but you were also perfectly centered on the painting behind you, which the way it framed your face was quite impressive. Most of the time you were right smack dab in front of it. And I also liked, although it's not entirely gestures, but when you start laughing, you know, laughing is still something that we see. And the laughter with regard to the fact that we are apparently not Dallas ISD Toastmasters, I thought that went across very, very well as well. Rob, noticed a couple of things. You also, of course, as always, had your hands up where we could see them. So you did a very good job there. And I noticed a couple of things in particular when you were remarking to going up the stairs, when you were talking about you were doing snakes and rodents. And so you were doing that kind of emotion. And what was the other one that I noticed? I think is when you were talking about screaming and you were saying nothing was coming out, the motions that you made with your hands with regard to screaming in your dream, but nothing coming out, I thought were very effective. Dagan, you were also in good focus tonight for being able to see your hands. I thought your gestures were also effective. We saw more of your hands than usual tonight. That was good. Kim Crandall, I would definitely like to see more gestures from you. I'm sure everybody else would like to feel the same way. We'll work on your camera and see if we can make that happen. That's not exactly your fault. Finally, Nicholas, the one thing that I noticed for you that was just a touch distracting was you did part of your speech basically like this. I don't know what you had your hand out for, but what I noticed was it looked like I think that's your right hand. I have to think of which direction the print goes on my shirt, but you seem to have your hand out. Maybe you were reaching for a mouse most of the time and moving a mouse around. But if you can, touch it, put your arm back down, would be my recommendation. That concludes what I noticed for the posture report tonight.
Great. Thank you, Mark. Next, we're going to go to our awe counter, which tonight I believe was Kim Crandall. And Kim, can you give us your report on the awe counter?
Can you hear me? Overall, everyone did very well. Dagan, I caught you with one Mark Sims, I caught you with one and John Vessels, I caught you with one Nicholas, when you were starting to talk about the duty holders, you had a period where you did several so's, kind of run on with so. Other than that, overall, good job, everyone. Back to you, Mr. General Evaluator.
Great. Thank you, Kim. Last but not least, Rob Giles, our grammarian tonight. Please give us your report on Craven and any other words that you found great or need improvement.
Thank you very much, Mr. General Evaluator. First, I did not notice any egregious use of the English language as far as grammar is concerned. I didn't notice any, any elevated use that was exceptional for the use of the English language, but I did have some phrases, some words. The theme definitely lent itself to that. John started off with, as Toastmaster, using spooky, creepy. He had a phrase which had alliteration in it, which I love, and that was monsters in your movies. So that was great, I thought. And you also used the word unnerving, which was very appropriate for the theme as well. Marsha. Obviously that's cool, and it's very reflective for those of us who are very familiar with it. You had a phrase, pleaded with doctors. You said that you were the coolest auntie. Of course, you didn't use quotes, but that's probably because it's true, right? The phrase that was on your shirt that you expressed, I'm not bossy, I have leadership skills. You quoted Jeremiah for I know the plans I have for you. And then you went on from there as well. So I thought all those were great. You used the word self-efficacy, which is definitely tough to say, no matter if you are practicing it or not, but you did it well. Great job with that. Use the phrase eradicate use of ums. And I thought that was very appropriate for Toastmasters, and I loved using the word eradicate. And then one, you also said shut down, and then you pause for a second and shut up. So I thought that was great too. Mark Sims, during table topics, again, an alliteration within there, you said killer that was never caught. So I thought that was great. You had a phrase motivated to ask, also averting my glance. I thought that was great. One word, gruesome, which is very appropriate. And then the question that you posed to Dagan, which was slasher scene. Mark Schroeder, obviously I mentioned this before, you didn't really use the word of the day. You had to use
It's
Mr.
the
West.
word of the, okay,
Raven.
different meaning, but it's the same word.
I don't see a capital R there, but it was definitely creative. So I thought that was great. John, oh, and you said creeped me out during your table topics, which is great. It was a kind of a moving on from what John said, but that's a great phrase. John, before you pass it on to Nicholas, you were talking about the theater and you said, talking about jumping out of your seat, but you also had more intensely, I think was, and the more powerful was that everybody just gasped. So I thought that was great. We really got the idea of what was going on in the theater with that. Nicholas used the phrase scary stuff, which may be a little common, but I thought the alliteration was good. You also used the word craven during your general evaluation. Everything else was great. So thank you so much for all the great words and terms to everybody. Back to you, Mr. General Evaluator.
Great. Thank you, Rob. And now at this point, before I head on out here, I'd like to get everyone's to submit their votes on the best of the big three tonight, which would be John Vessels as Toastmaster, Mark Sims as the Table Topics Master, or I as the General Evaluator. And again, please send those votes to Dev whenever you have those ready. And fortunately, I had to call it an early night, but thank you guys again, and I'll see you all next time. Thanks.
And
So I guess I'll pick it up here. You're gonna go ahead and do it, Mark. Okay.
yeah, I can do that. And at this point, while Dev is calculating the votes, we are heading to the business portion of the meeting. First thing that we want to do is again thank Karen for for attending tonight. And Karen, if you could just tell us a little about yourself. What do you think a Toastmasters Club can do for you? Basically, what brought you here? And how did you like the meeting?
I truly enjoyed the meeting. I'm very surprised. I initially heard about Toastmasters. I've heard about it. Of course, everyone's heard about it years in the past, but more recently, I have started to get my doctorate in anesthesia. I'm a nurse anesthetist, so I began to get my doctorate in anesthesia. And I was informed that at the very end of with our dissertation, we have to present our dissertation, and you have to present it over 30 minutes. And you have to, defend, of course, your topic. And I'm like, oh my goodness, I'm not gonna be able to do that. But I was speaking with another gastroenterologist I work with, and he's like, his wife took this course and she felt, she took it over a course of maybe 6 months, just kept coming back and taking it. And she felt a lot more comfortable with speaking in public, and a lot more comfortable with like cutting out all the ums, and a lot more comfortable with just speaking off the top of her head, bringing a lot of, I guess you would call it, just speaking off the top of her head, just adding into the conversation, I suppose. So that's what brought me here. And I really enjoyed the first class. This is my first class, and I really enjoyed.
Thank you. Please feel very free to visit us again next week, Thursday night, 6:45. And also, if you're ready, we definitely would love to have you as a member. We've been able to add some great new members this year, even though we've been meeting via Zoom as opposed to in person. And whenever the health circumstances get to where we can meet again in person, those meetings are at Azona's on Greenville Avenue. But it looks like for at least through the end of this year, what we've discussed is that we'll be meeting via Zoom, because frankly, the news doesn't seem that great on the COVID-19 front. Thank you again. I want to follow up with something I had emailed Mark Schroeder and Rob Giles about. Our area governor had asked me for a picture of us for the upcoming contest. And Rob, I think you had offered up a picture from 2019. You know, if that's relatively recent, I think we can go with that. And if she wants to use it, she can.
Sounds good.
Can you tell me what the goal was? Was it just one photo? Was that what she was looking for, or a series?
I think she would probably be open to using or at least viewing a series if those are available, and then making her best pick.
Okay, because we still might have some out on Facebook that would be probably mostly things like the officer installation and things like that. I know we probably have some of those. We may have some with individuals. I don't know that we have too many other group photos.
Can send her what you fellas provide to me, and she can make her decision on what she thinks is best. And obviously that division contest is going to be on October 24th, which is going to be here pretty quick, because that'd be just 2 days after next week's meeting. And again, we're going to have two participants, Lee King as evaluator and Karen Lee as a humorous speaker. And it's very possible that Mary Gomez again may tap, or someone may try and tap some of us to serve in supporting roles and helping.
And
So
the contest is at, well, 10 o'clock is, I guess, when the contest starts, and the briefing starts at 9. That's my understanding. I still have not seen an official word, but I put a post out on Facebook and I got a reply at 10 o'clock.
Okay. And I have not seen anything more official about that either. But again, we'll be looking forward to that. And I'm not aware of any other business. Obviously, we've discussed staying away from Azonas for the remainder of the year. And does anyone else have any business to bring up before we hear the winners of the competitions? Rob.
I just wanted to remind everybody, this is occurring every Saturday at 10 a.m. And you can find it and the link located on our calendar on our DallasSocialToastmasters.com website. So it's on that calendar, but every Saturday at 10 a.m. I am doing 30, 40 minutes, possibly depending on how many people show up, longer time frame, where I'm doing member orientation. And this is going to vary anywhere from what the meeting is all about to what Pathways is. And it could vary depending on who's coming into the Zoom, but I will send out another email this evening, which will have the link, but you can always find it on DallasSocialToastmasters.com under the calendar there. And there will be a link there that you can follow to get to the Zoom. And again, it's 10 a.m. tomorrow. It's 10 a.m. every Saturday, moving forward indefinitely right now. So everybody is welcome.
Thank you, Rob. Does anyone else have any business? Mark Schroeder.
Yeah, just a quick one. For those of you on the WhatsApp, you already saw it. If you're not on the WhatsApp, you may or may not have seen it. For what it's worth, Dallas County has moved their COVID rating back up to red, which is stay home, stay safe, from orange. And if you are interested, you can Google and find the multivariant reasons why that change has been made. That was a change as of this week again. So Dallas is unfortunately back to red, going in the wrong direction as far as Dallas Health and Human Services is concerned.
Yeah, the news is not positive, I think, most anywhere. So we will just have to persevere. And with that, Deb, would you please tell us who the winners are?
Sorry about that. I don't know why it does that. Sometimes it, like I'll click it and it won't come off of mute. So I apologize, but thank you. So I want to make sure that I actually capture the right events. So I got votes for the best evaluator. Do we have to vote on that?
Since there was only
No.
one evaluator, no, we do not.
In my opinion, it's Lee King. I'll just come out and say it.
Okay, I had to ask because
Yeah,
we didn't vote on it.
uncontested.
Okay, so tonight we had a great lineup of speakers. I've been learning a lot. I know that I'm probably looking pretty weird, but I'm just going through the learning phase like everyone else is. So tonight, the best table topic speaker came in at a tie, and one of the rules of the vote counter is to break that tie. So I picked Nicholas, would be breaking the tie of 2 because there was one person left. So there were 2. Yeah, Nicholas is who I picked for the best table topic speaker.
Okay.
And then for the best of the big 3, I think everybody knows who this one is. It came in at John Vessels. He won that topic tonight.
Okay.
And I did not get any votes for best speaker. We didn't do that one either.
Right now.
She went over on time, so she didn't qualify.
I just needed to make sure that I wasn't losing my mind.
She still was,
All
the
right.
best. She was still the best prepared speaker. I don't care.
Definitely. Yeah, that makes your job a little more active, Devon, when we have more than one speaker and more than one evaluator, which is what we try and do. And folks, with that, I believe we can call it a night. Thank y'all all, and I hope everyone has a great weekend.
Good evening.
Thank you.
Stopping the recording in 3, 2,